again for the Newark Arts High School Gospel Choir. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Teresa Ruiz, State Senator for the greatest city in the Garden State. And oftentimes I use this quote by Dr. King: faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. We here in the city of Newark, as residents, as activists, as public servants, as members of a greater community, we've always had faith because we know of the greatness here in Brick City. I want to ask all of the children from Newark Public Schools, all of the children from the vocational schools to please stand. When I think of Dr. King and his legacy, I think of all of these wonderful people that amongst them will be the next generation of leaders. And as someone who embarks on education policy, I often look at a quote that's in my state Trenton office that reads, "The ultimate measure of a person is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." To all of you, I pledge that I will stand, no regardless as to what comes before me, to fight for you every single day. That everyone who is here is reminded, like Assemblywoman Grace stated, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are we doing for others? You may be seated. Thank you for your inspiration. Thank you to the county executive who reminds us of the importance and the greatness of this county, and that's our diversity. And to take moments to celebrate each other, whether it's in a reminder, in a memory, in a statue, or in a moment of celebrating our great culture and pride. Thank you. God bless this great Garden State. God bless the great city of Newark, and God bless America.
There are few among us who will spend our days on this earth and be written in history as a transformative figure. But we are sitting at the feet of a man who was the most transformative human being in the world, Dr. Martin Luther King. You know, I loved hearing the history that the sheriff gave us, the history that the mayor gave us. Newark is indelibly connected to Dr. King because the first African-American woman to ever be elected to the state Senate in New Jersey was the French tutor for Dr. Martin Luther King. And Edith, I know you will know that Daddy King reached out for Winona Lippman because Junior was having trouble mastering French. But it was our own Senator Winona Lippman that helped him master that language. You know, if you travel around the country, you will see Dr. Martin Luther King boulevards all over the United States. And for people of color, we often lament, why is it every city we go to that has a Martin Luther King boulevard, it's the Strip, the roll-up gates on the doors, the young men congregating on the corners, businesses moved out, houses boarded up. That's what Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard looks like all over America. But not in Essex County and not in Newark, New Jersey. A boulevard that is befitting of the name of King should have just what this boulevard has. Educational institutions, seats of government, commerce, and people in our university city right down the street preparing the next generation of leadership. And all of these young people who are here today who are part of that educational environment. The best way for me to commemorate Dr. King this afternoon is to just ask you to reflect, listen to the soothing movement of this water, and I am going to read for you several of the most profound things that Dr. King wrote about. If you've never read Letters from a Birmingham Jail, do yourself a favor and read that. There's no question Martin was ahead of his time, as most transformative people are, because he understood the number one inherent rule in leadership. And leadership is having the courage to swim upstream when the current is going a different way. And that is what he did. And look how he touched every single life in this world because he had the courage to swim upstream. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle. The tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals. On education, Martin wrote, "The function of education is to teach one to think intensively, not to take the PARCC test, not to have all kinds of batteries, but to teach people to be critical thinkers. Intelligence plus character. That is the true goal of education." In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. A genuine leader is not a searcher for consensus, but a molder of consensus. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. Dr. Martin Luther King. We must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of not being able to forgive loses the ability to be transformative. So today, as we celebrate a monument to Martin, as you leave this place today, look inward. Ask yourself, what are you doing to fulfill the dream?
What a magnificent oration. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And what a day this is. This is an incredible day in history. Nobel laureate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was one of the most influential persons to ever walk this earth. Some were fortunate to have lived during his 39 years on earth. Others were fortunate enough to have met and worked with him. I was one of the fortunate ones. In 1956, when I was a student at Rutgers University, I had been elected national chairman of the NAACP Youth Work Committee, and I was selected to attend the NAACP's 47th annual national convention at San Francisco's Civic Auditorium. My first introduction to the 29-year-old Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was when he was being denied the opportunity to address the convention by some of the much older leaders of the NAACP. After the youth members of the NAACP attending the convention strongly demonstrated in favor of Dr. King, the elders relented and Dr. King delivered his incredible message. Among the things I remember Dr. King saying that afternoon in San Francisco was that the human race is like a piano keyboard. In order to get harmony, you have to play all of the keys from a treble white to a bass black. Dr. King also said that discrimination and segregation are diametrically opposed to the principles of our Constitution. And he said all of the dialectics of the logicians cannot make them lie down together. That's what Dr. King's message then. A photograph, which I cherish, was taken at the end of his speech, and as I escorted him from the stage, I am seen at his left. And among the others in that photo, which is displayed here, is Medgar Evers, the NAACP Mississippi Field Secretary, who was killed as he entered his home in 1963. In 1957, after having met Dr. King, I attended what was called the prayer pilgrimage. And this button that I have on here now was my badge for that prayer pilgrimage, which was also at the Lincoln Memorial. But in that year, 1957, there were 25,000 people that attended. I was invited to join in that march. Dr. King was there, Harry Belafonte was there, A. Philip Randolph was there. But I was invited to join by a man by the name of Clarence Mitchell, who at that time was the Washington director of the Bureau, NAACP Bureau, whom I had met. I participated in that march, and I'm proud that I still have this badge of my relationship with Dr. King and the movement. Through the years, I continued my association with Dr. King and had opportunities to engage him in discussions about various subjects, including his concerns about Malcolm X's well-being. We had a long conversation about that when Malcolm was in Mecca at that time. Of course, Dr. King was also deeply concerned about education for our children. And at the strong urging of Mrs. Mary Birch, some of whom we may remember her, I persuaded him to be the speaker at the Junior Leaguers fundraiser at Newark's Terrace Room. I invited Rabbi Joachim Prince of Temple B'nai Abraham, a very strong supporter of Dr. King, to attend the dinner to introduce Dr. King. And introduce him he did. At the close of Dr. Prince's eloquent introduction, he said, "This is the first time in history that a prince has had the honor of introducing the king." What a bond they share. And Deborah Prince is here to say a word on behalf of her late father later on in the program. Sadly, my conversation with Dr. King was my last conversation with Dr. King was a little more than a week before he was taken from us. We were outside of Abyssinia Baptist Church on West Kenny Street after his speech, which as it turned out was the last one he made in New Jersey. He invited me to travel with him to a fundraiser for SCLC at Harry Belafonte's home in New York. Regrettably, I had to move my double-parked car, and I told him I would see him next time, but that was the last time. I did attend his funeral. Dr. King was exceptional. He was gifted. Perhaps his experience at Morehouse may have helped to mold him. We have Dr. William Howard, Jr., another Morehouse man, a civil rights veteran in his own right, who will speak of the influence of that esteemed institution upon Dr. King and so many others. I would like to ask, first of all, if the daughter of Rabbi Prince. Would please come. Deborah Prince is here to say a word about her relationship with Dr. King.
I'm very glad to. I have to speak with you afterwards because I know of that quote, but I didn't know exactly the occasion, so I'm going to get that information for you. Thank you. I want to thank Mr. Payne and all the Essex County elected officials and all of the elected officials for planning this, and their staffs for planning this wonderful event today. And I'm very honored to be here to tell you a little bit about my father's collaboration with Dr. King here in Newark. Before I do, I just want to say one thing that I thought while I was sitting in the seat. I think we owe it to Dr. King to see the number of women who are speaking here from the podium today and who have helped to plan this event. And who are leading the charge and standing up for us as elected officials. And I think if we think back to the photographs of Dr. King's era, and Ms. Jennings, you'll probably back me up on this, there weren't too many women in the picture. But things have really changed, and I think that we so often think about the things that have not changed and how frustrated we are. But that's a really big thing. You know, we have 2 candidates for the President of the United States who are women today, and I think we owe that to some extent to Dr. King. So I'm here representing not only my father, Rabbi Joachim Prince, but also his congregation, Temple B'nai Abraham, which was established in Newark in 1853. Its first home was on Market Street, and it later moved several times before constructing a gorgeous building with a domed roof on Clinton Avenue and Shanley Avenue that is now the home of the Deliverance Evangelical Temple. Our congregation remained there until 1973 when we relocated to our new home in Livingston. Our current rabbi, Clifford Culwin, has maintained strong ties to Newark through collaborations including with the Deliverance Temple and City National Bank and Newark Big Brothers and Sisters and many other efforts that he's involved with and involves us in. I'd like to just take a moment to dedicate my remarks today to our very dear friend, the late Clement Alexander Price, who died nearly a year ago when he fell ill following his appearance at the discussion of a documentary film about my father in which Clem appears. I know we all wish that he was here with us today, and you can just see him sitting over there smiling at this event, and I just wanted to think about him for a moment. My father became the rabbi of Temple B'nai Abraham in 1939. He had come to America as a refugee from Nazi Germany in 1937. His career began in Berlin, where he risked his life to speak out openly against the Hitler regime. He became an American proudly, I think in the Hall of Records. There's a story about it. They had to open it up on a Sunday because he was going to give a speech to American troops, I guess in New Jersey. And but since he wasn't a citizen yet, during wartime, people who weren't citizens weren't allowed to speak to American military, so they had to open the Hall of Records on a Sunday so that he could get sworn in. Anyway, another nice Newark story. He became an American very proudly on the heels of witnessing the systematic marginalization, persecution, and ultimate extermination of 6 million Jews in Europe. Expecting to put that kind of hatred and racism behind him when he sailed past the Statue of Liberty, he was horrified to discover the injustice that African Americans were suffering in this country, and he became an early participant and leader in the civil rights movement. After first meeting Dr. King when my father was elected president of the American Jewish Congress in 1958, they found that they had very much in common. They were both charismatic religious leaders who spoke out passionately about their beliefs, which were very often unpopular in mainstream America. My father invited Dr. King to speak at our synagogue on Clinton Avenue in January of 1963, a time when few white clergymen dared to align themselves with the civil rights movement, let alone invite an African-American pastor to speak from their pulpits. In his speech in Newark that night, Dr. King called the religious community to action when he said, "Religion is always in danger of saying, 'Wait on God to act.' And so you wait on God to act. Well, I subscribe to another kind of religion that says God will act, but he will only act when men act." Religion says to Moses and to Ezekiel, "Stand on your feet and I will speak to you." 7 months later, my father echoed those same sentiments in a speech that he gave immediately before Dr. King at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. My father said that during the Nazi regime, the German people had become a nation of silent onlookers who remained silent in the face of hate, brutality, and mass murder. America, he said, must not become a nation of onlookers. America must not remain silent. Not merely Black America, but all of America. It must speak up and act from the president down to the humblest of us, and not for the sake of the Black community, but for the sake of the image, the idea, and the aspiration of America itself. The beautiful image of Dr. King that will be unveiled today will symbolize many things to many people. To me, it will be a reminder of the example set by Dr. King, by my father, and other leaders who had the courage to fight injustice, armed only with the power of their beliefs, their passion, their persistence, and the spoken word. Thank you again for inviting me.
Good afternoon. Bill Howard is my name. Let me just say, having heard reference to the rich memory of Clement Price, there's another distinguished Newarker who has been called home, Robert Kervin, a man who had great fidelity to Newark, and he will be remembered at 11 a.m. on October 31st in the sanctuary of Bethany Baptist Church, and you're all invited to remember the good work and the legacy of Bob Kervin. Let me also hurry up and congratulate Essex County leaders for having the vision and determination to erect a statue as a reminder, as an inspiration, as a source of encouragement. Sister Edith, who should know, she told us that Martin was a regular human being. I want to underscore that theme in the brief moments I have. You heard that Senator Winona Lippman taught him French. What the Assemblywoman didn't say is that she taught him French, not at Morehouse, but at Spelman College. And Spelman was a very popular destination for regular Morehouse brothers. So Dr. King was a regular brother. And this is very important. I'm 200% in favor of memorials to Dr. King, but they have their potential downside. If you put him on a pedestal, which is sort of like putting him on the shelf, and if you begin to think of him as some really extraordinary human being, exempt from the temptations and pressures of ordinary life, you will quickly begin to excuse yourself for continuing the struggle for which he is well known. So let's be clear, the King was an ordinary man who did extraordinary things. I encountered him as a foot soldier in the Southwest Georgia movement, the land of my birth. So you might say that I'm an immigrant to New Jersey, because when I took my New Jersey wife to visit my home, she wondered if it might be another country. But that is the state of affairs in Georgia, where King earned his stripes. This is a very important event, and I will announce that the price of being here is to know more fully the man whom we celebrate. Dr. King's name is perhaps one of the best known names in the world, but I'm astonished at how little we actually know about him. For example, when we began the program, we began with quotes from the well-known speech, "I Have a Dream." We know that refrain, but we don't know the guts of the speech. So at least go and read the whole speech. It's much more about the details of the vision that comes across in the refrain. And we have a great challenge, because young people know of the name of Dr. King, but their memory or their knowledge of him is not living. One case in point. There's a picture of myself standing with Mr. Nelson Mandela in the church. And some young people came into the office and they said, "Look, there's Dr. Howard with Dr. King." Well, they recognized Mandela. They knew he was a great man. But you see, they didn't actually know beyond the surface. So I'm going to say that this is part of our really, really critical responsibility in this day. It is important, too, that we understand that Martin King, a giant among giants, didn't just spring up from nowhere in the Montgomery bus boycott. He was part of a long-standing, rich tradition with elders and advisors and great teachers. Few Americans have been written about or have written for themselves a record of their lives and the basis of their conviction and the motives for their action as has Martin King. One of the most important books of King's philosophical evolution is virtually unknown by the masses of the public. That book is The Making of a Mind, written by a man named John Ansbro. And in this book, one can learn about the impact that men like his own father, or like Benjamin Elijah Mays, or like Samuel Williams, or Howard Thurman, or Mordecai Johnson, had on the path that Martin King chose for his life. And one of the things that these men shared in common was a connection to Morehouse College, Martin King's alma mater. It is also my alma mater. It is also the only college to which I applied. It was an iconic place in my early life, with alumni like Julian Bond, like Lerone Bennett, like Maynard Jackson. It gave nurture to any number of key male actors in the movement for civil rights in the 1960s. In my freshman year, there were times when the overwhelming percentage of the student body was in fact in jail. And in this context, during my time at Morehouse, King made many visits to the campus to address the young students. We revered his courage, but he always conveyed just enough of his own ordinariness to let us know the courage that we saw in him must also be our courage. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Howard. I'll direct your attention to your right as we welcome another phenomenal school in Essex County, hailing from the township of Montclair, Hillside School. Let's give a great welcome to the Drums of Thunder.
just want to thank my staff for having me follow the drums of thunder. Thank you very much. Very, very good. What a great day. First of all, I want to our Sheriff Von Tour and the Honor Guard, I just want to thank them. Every time we have a program, they always participate. To the Newark Boys Chorus, thank you. To those young people. To the Essex County West Colwell Tech. To all of our 4 Essex County vocational schools, thank you. In the last 5 to 6 years, we received 4 blue ribbon. It's because of their contributions that made it possible to be able to build these statues, to be able to recognize the people that made contributions here, not only in Essex County, but throughout our country. And I'd like to recognize them, and I'd like to have them come forward and give them a big thank you. Miles Berger, please come forward. He's contributed to all 7. He doesn't know what statue will be next year, but we will have a statue. To Ralph Izzo in public service, I know Rick Dickpen, could you come forward? Sam Delgado from Verizon. Also John Clancy from Community Education Center, Bob Marino from Horizon, and also Barry Ostrowski from St. Barnabas, and also Ray Pacino from the Laborers. Here's Lou LaSalle accepting it for St. Barnabas. Do we have a plaque for Lou? This event today was put together for all of us, but most important, it was put together for all the young people that are here. If it wasn't for Dr. King's action, what he did in his lifetime, we would not be where we're at today, but you too would not be where you're at today. And this is for you.